Good morning, everyone. We are taught to be kind, to be giving, and to put others before ourselves. And while kindness is a virtue, there's a fine line between being genuinely nice and being too nice to the point where it becomes a weakness. Today I want to talk about how being excessively nice can lead to fake relationships, both in friendships and romantic connections. In every relationship, whether it's friendship, family, or romance, there should be a balance of give and take. When two people contribute equally, there is mutual respect and appreciation. However, when one person is always giving and the other is only taking, the relationship becomes one-sided. This imbalance creates an unhealthy dynamic where one person benefits while the other is left feeling drained and unappreciated. People who are naturally kind and giving often fall into the trap of overextending themselves. They say yes to every request, prioritize others' needs over their own, and constantly try to make people happy. While their intentions may be pure, this level of selflessness can attract individuals who only want to take advantage of their generosity. The sad reality is that some people are drawn to kindness not because they appreciate it, but because they see it as an opportunity to get what they want without giving anything in return. When one person in a relationship is always the giver, they start to feel unfulfilled. They may notice that their efforts are not reciprocated, yet they continue to give, hoping that one day the other person will change. Unfortunately, this rarely happens. The more one person gives without receiving, the more the other person expects. Over time, the giver starts to feel used and undervalued, but they struggle to step away because they have invested so much in the relationship. One of the biggest dangers of one-sided relationships is emotional exhaustion. The person who is constantly giving may begin to feel invisible, as if their feelings and needs do not matter. They might start to question their worth, wondering if they are only valued for what they provide rather than for who they truly are. This can lead to feelings of resentment, loneliness, and even self-doubt, making it difficult to recognize when a relationship has become toxic. Another major issue is that people who take advantage of kindness rarely feel the need to change. If someone is always receiving without having to put in effort, they have no reason to start contributing. Instead, they become comfortable in a relationship where they benefit without having to work for it. This dynamic creates an illusion of a relationship. It may look fine on the surface, but beneath it, there is no real emotional connection or mutual support. Many people in one-sided relationships hold on to the hope that if they keep giving, the other person will eventually appreciate them. They believe that their kindness and loyalty will one day be recognized. However, relationships should not be built on the hope that someone will change. True connections are formed when both people naturally contribute and care for each other, not when one person is always trying to prove their worth. The longer someone stays in a one-sided relationship, the harder it becomes to leave. They may fear confrontation, worry about losing the other person, or convince themselves that things will improve. But in reality, staying in such relationships only reinforces the unhealthy pattern. The only way to break free is to recognize the imbalance, set boundaries, and demand the respect and effort that they deserve. When someone realizes that they are in a relationship where they are always giving but never receiving, they must take a step back and evaluate its true value. Are they being appreciated for who they are, or are they only being kept around for what they offer? If a relationship only exists because one person is constantly giving, then it is not a real relationship. It is a one-sided arrangement that will never lead to true happiness. Boundaries are essential in any healthy relationship because they define what is acceptable and what is not. When someone lacks boundaries, they allow others to dictate their emotions, time, and energy. This often leads to relationships where one person is always giving while the other takes without limits. Fake relationships thrive in these situations because there is no balance. One person is always adjusting, compromising, and sacrificing, while the other benefits without reciprocation. People who struggle with setting boundaries often believe that saying no will make them seem selfish or unkind. They feel obligated to meet everyone's expectations, even at their own expense. Unfortunately, this behavior invites people who only care about what they can gain from the relationship. Instead of being valued for who they are seen as a source of comfort, help, or convenience. Over time, the relationship loses any sense of real emotional connection and becomes purely transactional. Prioritizing others over oneself might seem like an act of kindness, but when done excessively, it leads to self-neglect. People who always put others first may start to feel invisible, as their own needs and desires are continuously ignored. In a fake relationship, the person without boundaries is expected to constantly give, while the other person takes without any concern for their well-being. This imbalance creates a relationship where only one person feels fulfilled, while the other is left emotionally drained. One of the biggest red flags in a fake relationship is when someone feels like they have to earn love or approval by constantly doing things for the other person. Real relationships are based on mutual care and understanding, not on one person trying to prove their worth. When someone lacks boundaries, they allow others to take them for granted, which only reinforces the idea that their value comes from what they do rather than who they are. Another major problem with lacking boundaries is that it leads to a fear of confrontation. People who struggle with setting limits often avoid speaking up, even when they feel disrespected or unappreciated. They convince themselves that keeping the peace is more important than addressing their own feelings. However, avoiding conflict does not make a relationship stronger. It only allows the other person to continue taking advantage of the situation. In fake relationships, the person without boundaries often experiences feelings of guilt whenever they try to stand up for themselves. They worry that asserting their needs will push the other person away, so they continue to accept unfair treatment. This guilt keeps them trapped in a cycle of overgiving and under-receiving, making it even harder to break free from the toxic dynamic. When someone constantly prioritizes others at the expense of their own well-being, they eventually lose their sense of self. They may find themselves agreeing to things they don't truly want, pretending to be okay when they are not, and sacrificing their own happiness just to keep the relationship going. But a relationship that requires someone to ignore their own needs is not real. It's a situation where one person is being used under the illusion of care. A lack of boundaries creates the perfect environment for fake relationships to thrive, because it allows one person to manipulate the situation without consequences. When there are no limits to what they can ask for or expect, they continue to take advantage, knowing that the other person will never challenge them. This creates a dynamic where one person is always left feeling empty, while the other reaps all the benefits without ever having to invest genuine effort. Being nice is a wonderful trait, but when someone is excessively nice, it can make them a target for manipulators. Manipulative people look for individuals who are easy to control, and those who are overly kind often fit this description. Because they want to avoid conflict and make others happy, overly nice people become easy prey for those who seek to use them for their own benefit. This creates an unhealthy dynamic where one person gives with good intentions, while the other takes with selfish motives. Manipulators are skilled at recognizing people who struggle to say no. They look for individuals who are willing to go out of their way to help, even when it's inconvenient or harmful to themselves. Once they find someone with this personality, they gradually start taking advantage. At first, their requests may seem small, but over time, they increase their demands, knowing that the overly nice person will feel obligated to comply. This cycle continues until the person being used either realizes what's happening or becomes too drained to keep up. One of the most common tactics manipulators use is guilt. They make the nice person feel bad for not helping, even when the request is unreasonable. They might say things like, "If you really cared, you would do this for me," or "I thought you were a good friend." Because overly nice people want to be seen as caring and dependable, they often fall into this trap, agreeing to things they don't want to do just to avoid feeling guilty. Another manipulation technique is playing the victim. Manipulators pretend to be helpless, exaggerating their struggles to gain sympathy. They know that overly nice people will feel responsible for helping them, even if it means sacrificing their own time, energy, or well-being. This allows the manipulator to control the relationship without ever putting in equal effort, as the nice person takes on the role of constantly saving them. Manipulative people also use flattery to keep their control. They praise the nice person for being so kind, generous, and selfless, making them feel special and needed. However, this praise is not genuine, it's a strategy to keep the nice person giving. The moment the overly nice person stops complying, the manipulator may withdraw their kindness, creating fear of rejection or abandonment. This emotional manipulation makes it even harder for the nice person to break free. Over time, constantly dealing with manipulators can lead to emotional exhaustion. The nice person may feel drained, unappreciated, and confused about why their kindness is never reciprocated. They may start to question their own worth, wondering if they are only valued for what they do rather than for who they are. Despite giving so much, they rarely feel the same level of care and support in return. One of the biggest dangers of attracting manipulators is that it can create a pattern of toxic relationships. If someone repeatedly finds themselves in situations where they are being used, they may begin to believe that this is just how relationships work. They might continue attracting the same type of people, unaware that their excessive kindness is what makes them vulnerable to being taken advantage of. This cycle can continue unless they learn to recognize the signs and set stronger boundaries. The unfortunate reality is that not everyone appreciates kindness. Some people see it as a weakness to exploit. This does not mean that being nice is wrong, but it does mean that kindness should be balanced with self-respect. Without boundaries, overly nice people will continue to attract manipulators who see them not as friends or partners, but as opportunities to be used. People who always say yes and avoid conflict often believe they are being helpful and kind. They want to maintain peace in their relationships, so they agree to things even when they don't want to. However, while their intentions may be good, this behavior sends a message to others that they can be easily persuaded or manipulated. Over time, people start to see them as someone who will never push back, making them an easy target for unfair treatment. When someone never says no, others begin to assume that their time, energy, and resources are always available. This leads to unrealistic expectations where they are constantly expected to help, even when it's inconvenient for them. Instead of being appreciated for their generosity, they become taken for granted. People stop asking if they're okay with something and start assuming they will always comply. Avoiding conflict also makes it difficult to express personal needs and feelings. When someone is afraid to disagree, they suppress their true thoughts just to keep others happy. This creates relationships that lack honesty because one person is never truly expressing themselves. Over time, this can lead to resentment as they begin to feel unheard and undervalued, while the other person continues to get what they want without ever considering their feelings. Another danger of always saying yes is that it attracts people who take advantage of kindness. Some individuals actively look for those who are unwilling to stand up for themselves, because they know they can manipulate them into doing whatever they want. Instead of forming genuine relationships based on mutual respect, the person who always says yes ends up surrounded by people who see them as a tool for their own benefit. Being afraid of conflict also prevents necessary conversations from happening. Every healthy relationship requires open communication, including discussions about boundaries and personal limits. If someone avoids conflict at all costs, they never get the chance to address problems or make their needs known. This allows small issues to grow into bigger problems, creating a one-sided relationship where only one person's needs are being met. Always agreeing to everything can also create stress and emotional exhaustion. When someone continuously puts others first, they may end up overburdened with responsibilities they never wanted in the first place. They take on more than they can handle just to avoid disappointing others, leading to burnout. Meanwhile, the people they are helping remain unaware of their struggles because they have never been told no. Saying yes all the time can also lower a person's self-worth. When they realize that people only value them for what they can provide, they may start to feel like their own wants and needs don't matter. They begin to believe that their worth is tied to their ability to please others, which can lead to deep feelings of insecurity and a lack of self-confidence. In the end, constantly saying yes and avoiding conflict creates an unhealthy pattern where one person is always giving while others are always taking. It prevents real connections from forming because the relationship is based on fear rather than honesty. If someone wants to be truly respected, they must learn to stand up for themselves, set boundaries, and understand that saying no does not make them a bad person. Many people believe that being kind is the key to maintaining strong relationships. While kindness is undoubtedly important, it is not the only factor that determines whether a relationship is genuine. True relationships, whether friendships, family bonds, or romantic connections, are built on mutual respect, honesty, and balance. If these elements are missing, kindness alone is not enough to sustain a meaningful connection. Mutual respect means that both people in a relationship value each other as equals. In a real relationship, no one feels superior or entitled to more than they give. Each person's feelings, opinions, and boundaries are acknowledged and honored. However, in fake relationships, one person may consistently demand more while the other constantly sacrifices. When respect is one-sided, the relationship becomes transactional rather than meaningful. Honesty is another crucial element of a real relationship. When two people can openly express their thoughts, feelings, and concerns without fear of rejection, their bond grows stronger. However, when someone is too nice, they may avoid speaking their truth to prevent upsetting the other person. They might hide their disappointments or pretend to be okay with things that actually hurt them. Over time, this dishonesty creates a false sense of harmony that eventually collapses when unspoken issues build up. Balance in a relationship means that both individuals contribute equally. This does not mean that everything has to be split perfectly, but both people should feel valued and supported. In fake relationships, one person often gives far more than they receive. They may be the one who always listens, helps, and sacrifices, while the other person rarely reciprocates. A relationship without balance is not a true partnership. It is a situation where one person benefits while the other is left feeling empty. Being nice without demanding respect, honesty, and balance can make someone vulnerable to being used. People who take advantage of others are often drawn to those who give endlessly without expecting anything in return. They enjoy the benefits of the relationship without putting in real effort. The person who is too nice may not realize what is happening because they assume that their kindness will eventually be recognized and appreciated. Unfortunately, in fake relationships, appreciation rarely comes. A real relationship requires effort from both sides. It cannot be built on one person constantly giving while the other takes. True bonds develop when both individuals invest time, energy, and care into maintaining the relationship. This means being there for each other not just in good times, but also in difficult moments. When only one person is making an effort, the connection becomes fragile and superficial. Many people who struggle with one-sided relationships believe that if they continue to be kind, the other person will change. They think that by always being available, helpful, and forgiving, they will eventually be treated with the same level of care. However, relationships do not work this way. A person who does not respect you from the beginning will not suddenly start valuing you just because you keep giving. True relationships are based on mutual care, where both individuals feel safe, respected, and appreciated. If someone finds themselves constantly giving, while the other person only takes, it is a sign that the relationship is not genuine. Kindness should never come at the expense of self-respect, and real relationships should never make a person feel unimportant or unworthy. When someone is excessively nice, they often go out of their way to help others, meet their needs, and make them feel comfortable. While this may seem like a positive trait, it can create a dangerous pattern where people start valuing them for their actions rather than their personality or character. Instead of being appreciated for who they truly are, they become defined by what they provide to others. This can lead to relationships that feel empty and unfulfilling. In genuine relationships, people value each other for their thoughts, emotions, and unique qualities. However, when someone is too nice, their kindness often overshadows everything else about them. Others begin to see them as a source of comfort, support, or assistance rather than as a person with their own identity. This means that their presence is appreciated not because of their personality or values, but because of what they can offer. Over time, this dynamic can become exhausting. The overly nice person might start to notice that people only reach out when they need something. Their friendships and relationships may revolve around favors, emotional support, or acts of service rather than deep, meaningful connections. Instead of feeling loved and appreciated, they may start to feel like they are being used. This realization can be painful, as it reveals that the bond they believed was genuine may have been built on expectations rather than true affection. One of the biggest dangers of this situation is that it creates a fear of stopping. When someone is only valued for what they do, they may feel pressured to continue giving endlessly just to maintain their relationships. They might worry that if they stop being helpful, supportive, or available, people will lose interest in them. This fear can trap them in a cycle of overgiving, where they feel obligated to keep proving their worth through their actions. Another issue is that people who value others only for what they do rarely take the time to understand them on a deeper level. In many cases, the overly nice person's feelings, struggles, and desires are ignored because the focus is always on what they can provide. They may feel invisible, as if their identity is reduced to their usefulness rather than their true personality, dreams, or thoughts. This can lead to loneliness, even when they are surrounded by people. Additionally, being too nice can make it difficult to form authentic connections. Real relationships require mutual appreciation and emotional depth, but when someone is constantly giving, the balance shifts. Instead of building relationships based on shared experiences and interests, they may find themselves in friendships and romantic partnerships that feel more like obligations than genuine bonds. The absence of equal effort from the other side makes the relationship feel one-sided and unfulfilling. This issue is especially common in workplaces, friendships, and romantic relationships where people take kindness for granted. When someone consistently goes above and beyond to please others, their efforts often become expected rather than appreciated. Instead of gratitude, they receive increasing demands. Others begin to assume that their kindness is limitless, leading to greater exploitation rather than deeper respect. Ultimately, being too nice without setting boundaries can cause people to feel disconnected from their own identity. When they are only valued for what they do, they may lose sight of who they truly are. Their self-worth becomes tied to their ability to please others, making it difficult for them to prioritize their own needs and desires. Without balance, their kindness becomes a burden rather than a meaningful part of who they are. Boundaries are the foundation of any healthy relationship. They define what is acceptable and what is not, ensuring that both people in the relationship are treated with respect. When boundaries are absent, one person often ends up giving too much while the other takes advantage. This creates an unhealthy dynamic where the overly nice person is used rather than valued. Without clear limits, fake relationships thrive because one person is always sacrificing while the other only benefits. Many people struggle with setting boundaries because they fear disappointing others or being perceived as selfish. They believe that saying no will push people away, so they continue to give, even when it makes them uncomfortable. However, in doing so, they unknowingly invite people who only want to take advantage of their kindness. When someone realizes that they can get what they want without putting in effort, they will continue to push the limits until the nice person has nothing left to give. Fake relationships often form when one person prioritizes others' needs over their own. Without boundaries, they become trapped in a cycle of overgiving and under-receiving. The other person may not even realize the damage they are causing because they have never been told no. By constantly accommodating others, the overly nice person teaches people that their feelings, time, and energy are always available for others to use. One of the most important aspects of setting boundaries is learning to recognize when a relationship is one-sided. If someone only reaches out when they need something, never reciprocates effort, or disregards feelings, it is a sign that they are not truly invested in the relationship. Instead of hoping that the other person will change, the nice person must take control by establishing clear limits on what they are willing to give. Enforcing boundaries also helps reveal who genuinely respects the relationship. People who truly care will understand and honor limits, while those who are only interested in personal gain will react negatively. When a person starts saying no, fake friends and partners often show their true colors. They may guilt trip, pressure, or even distance themselves when they realize they can no longer exploit the situation. While this can be painful, it is better to lose those who only value what they can take rather than maintain a relationship built on manipulation. Setting boundaries does not mean being unkind, it means valuing oneself enough to demand respect. A person with strong boundaries is still caring and generous, but they do not allow others to walk all over them. They understand that real relationships should be mutually fulfilling, not one-sided. By clearly communicating their needs and limits, they ensure that their kindness is appreciated rather than taken for granted. Additionally, having boundaries builds self-respect and confidence. When someone learns to stand up for themselves, they feel more in control of their relationships and their life. They no longer allow guilt or fear to dictate their actions. Instead, they make decisions based on what is best for their emotional and mental well-being. This shift in mindset attracts people who value and respect them rather than those looking for an easy target. Ultimately, setting boundaries is the key to preventing fake relationships. It protects against emotional exhaustion, ensures that kindness is not mistaken for weakness, and helps build relationships based on mutual care and respect. Without boundaries, a person will always be at risk of being used. But with them, they create space for healthy, meaningful connections where both individuals contribute and appreciate each other equally. Many people misunderstand kindness, believing that it means always being available, always helping, and never refusing a request. However, True kindness is not about sacrificing oneself for the happiness of others. It includes self-respect and the ability to say no when necessary. A truly kind person understands that their own well-being matters just as much as the well-being of those around them. Without self-respect, kindness can become an open invitation for people to take advantage. Self-respect means recognizing one's own worth and setting boundaries that prevent mistreatment. When someone respects themselves, they do not allow others to use their kindness as a tool for manipulation. They understand that being generous and compassionate does not mean tolerating disrespect or constantly putting others' needs ahead of their own. Instead, they balance kindness with a strong sense of self-worth, ensuring that their giving nature is not exploited. The ability to say no is one of the most powerful expressions of self-respect. Many people fear that refusing a request will make them seem rude or selfish, but in reality, saying no is necessary for maintaining healthy relationships. When someone says no when they need to, they are setting a standard for how they expect to be treated. They communicate that their time, energy, and emotions are valuable and that they cannot always be at others' disposal. Without the ability to say no, kindness can become exhausting. People who never refuse requests often find themselves overwhelmed, drained, and taken for granted. They may realize that others only appreciate them for what they can provide, rather than for who they are. This can lead to feelings of resentment, frustration, and emotional burnout. True kindness is sustainable. It does not require self-sacrifice to the point of exhaustion. Another important aspect of self-respect is understanding that not everyone deserves unlimited kindness. Some people take advantage of others' generosity, using them only when it benefits them. A truly kind person recognizes when a relationship is one-sided and does not continue investing in those who only see them as a source of convenience. Instead, they choose to give their kindness to people who appreciate and reciprocate it. Saying no when necessary also helps to build stronger, more genuine relationships. When people set boundaries, they attract those who respect them rather than those who want to use them. Those who truly care will understand and honor limits, while those who are only interested in taking advantage will often disappear. This process naturally filters out unhealthy relationships, leaving behind connections built on mutual respect and appreciation. Some may worry that saying no will make them lose friends or push people away. However, real relationships do not depend on one person constantly saying yes. True friends, partners, and loved ones will value the person for who they are, not just for what they do. They will respect their boundaries and understand that kindness does not mean unlimited availability. In contrast, those who react negatively to a simple no were likely not genuine in their intentions to begin with. At its core, true kindness is about balance. It is about being compassionate and generous while also honoring one's own needs and limits. Without self-respect and the ability to say no, kindness can turn into self-neglect. But when kindness is combined with strong boundaries and self-awareness, it becomes an even more powerful force, one that fosters real connections, prevents exploitation, and promotes emotional well-being. In today's world, many people believe that having a large social circle is a sign of success and happiness. They focus on collecting as many friendships and relationships as possible, assuming that more connections mean greater support and fulfillment. However, the quality of relationships matters far more than the quantity. It is always better to have a few real, meaningful connections than to surround oneself with fake relationships that lack depth and sincerity. Fake relationships are often built on convenience rather than genuine care. People in these relationships may stick around when things are easy and enjoyable, but disappear the moment difficulties arise. They do not truly invest in the connection, nor do they offer real support when it is needed most. In contrast, real relationships are based on trust, loyalty, and mutual respect. Even if someone has only a handful of true friends, those few relationships will provide more emotional security than dozens of shallow ones. When someone fills their life with fake connections, they may feel lonely despite being surrounded by people. Fake friends or insincere partners often fail to provide the emotional depth and understanding that real relationships offer. They may engage in conversations, share fun moments, and even offer occasional support, but there is always a lack of true emotional connection. As a result, the person may feel unseen, unheard, and ultimately unfulfilled. Having fewer but genuine relationships allows for deeper emotional bonds. When a person invests in a small number of meaningful connections, they can give and receive support in a way that fosters trust and intimacy. These relationships provide a sense of belonging, security, and acceptance that fake relationships never can. A real friend or partner will be there during both good and bad times, offering consistent care rather than conditional attention. Fake relationships also tend to drain energy rather than provide comfort. People who maintain many superficial connections often find themselves constantly trying to impress, please, or entertain others. They may feel pressured to always be available, put on a happy face, or meet the expectations of people who do not truly care about them. On the other hand, genuine relationships allow for authenticity. In real connections, a person can be themselves without fear of judgment or rejection. Another risk of having too many fake relationships is that they create a false sense of security. A person may believe they have a strong support system because they are surrounded by people, but when they actually need help, they realize that very few, if any, of those people are truly there for them. This realization can be painful, as it exposes the emptiness of these connections and the illusion of friendship that once felt reassuring. Choosing to have fewer, deeper relationships also promotes self-respect and emotional well-being. It allows a person to focus on nurturing meaningful connections rather than wasting time and energy on people who do not truly care. It also encourages personal growth, as real relationships challenge individuals to be better, support their goals, and celebrate their successes. In contrast, fake relationships often lead to insecurity, self-doubt, and a lack of genuine personal development. Ultimately, it is far more rewarding to have a few people who truly love and care about you than to have many who only stick around when it benefits them. Real relationships provide emotional security, trust, and happiness, while fake ones leave people feeling empty and used. Prioritizing quality over quantity in relationships leads to a more fulfilling and meaningful life, free from the burdens of insincerity and superficiality. Many people believe that in order to be liked and accepted, they must constantly adjust themselves to fit others' expectations. They try to be agreeable, avoid conflict, and say what people want to hear, then that this will help them build strong relationships. However, true connections are not formed through endless people-pleasing. Real relationships develop when we are authentic, when we show up as our true selves, without fear of judgment or rejection. When someone tries too hard to please everyone, they often lose their sense of identity. They may suppress their real opinions, hide their true feelings, or pretend to enjoy things they do not actually like. Over time, this leads to exhaustion and frustration because they are constantly performing rather than being themselves. Instead of forming deep bonds, they attract relationships that are based on illusion rather than truth. Authenticity, on the other hand, allows people to connect on a deeper level. When we are honest about our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, we attract those who truly resonate with us. Real relationships are built on shared values, mutual respect, and genuine understanding, not on pretending to be someone we are not. The more authentic we are, the more we invite people into our lives who appreciate us for who we truly are. Trying to please everyone also leads to one-sided relationships. When a person prioritizes others' needs and desires over their own, they often attract individuals who take advantage of their kindness. These relationships become imbalanced, with one person constantly giving while the other only takes. True relationships, however, involve mutual effort and respect, where both individuals feel valued for who they are rather than for how much they can accommodate others. Another issue with people-pleasing is that it creates confusion about who we truly are. When someone constantly changes themselves to fit in, they may begin to lose touch with their own beliefs, passions, and values. They might wake up one day realizing they have no clear sense of self because they have spent so much time being what others wanted them to be. Authenticity, however, leads to self-discovery and a stronger connection to one's true identity. In contrast, when we embrace our true selves, we naturally attract the right people. Not everyone will like or agree with us, and that is okay. The right relationships are not based on universal approval, but on mutual appreciation and respect. When we stop trying to please everyone, we give ourselves the opportunity to form connections with those who genuinely value us for who we are. Being authentic also creates stronger, more meaningful conversations. In fake relationships, discussions often revolve around surface-level topics, avoiding anything that could lead to disagreement. But in real relationships, people can openly express their thoughts and emotions even when they have differences. Authenticity fosters trust, allowing both individuals to feel safe in being vulnerable, knowing that they are accepted just as they are. Ultimately, real relationships are not about perfection or constant agreement. They are about honesty, depth, and connection. By embracing who we truly are, rather than trying to mold ourselves to fit others' expectations, we invite people into our lives who genuinely appreciate and respect us. True bonds are formed when we stop pretending and start living as our authentic selves.